Want to know how Canada's top industry leaders feel about creating significant wealth in the world around them? Find out with me, Thane Stenner, founder of Stenner Wealth Partners at Canaccord Genuity and host of the new Smart Wealth podcast, available on iHeart or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Subscribe now. Welcome, everyone. I'm Thane Stenner, founder of Stenner Wealth Partners of Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management. And it's a pleasure to be your host today of the BNN Bloomberg Smart Wealth monthly podcast. Today's date is June 15th, 2022, and this podcast will be released on iHeartRadio, Apple, and other podcast platforms around June 25th or so. So please do look out for it and download it when it gets released. So let's get started. My special guest today is Mr. Seif. I put the Mr. in there, Sam, just to make you feel like special. Founder of Purpose Inc. and Purpose Investments. And I've known Sam, I've had the pleasure of knowing Sam for 10 years personally and professionally. And in North America, I would categorize him as one of the most innovative asset management financial services minds in the industry. And I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of very bright and capable professionals in this field. And it's my pleasure today to be actually interviewing Sam on a more personal, authentic note. The Smart Wealth podcast focus is, what I really enjoy about this is actually interviewing some pioneers in different industries, such as, we've had Bruce Linton of Cannabis King on, we've had Patricia Saputo family on, along with many, many others, John Ruffalo in the VC sector. And so having Sam kind of have a chat or discussion with us today is going to be a real treat, because I think everybody will find his insights to be pretty incredible in regards to the wealth management industry or the financial services industry. So before we begin officially, I'd like to give you a little bit of Sam's bio. He's the CEO and founder of Purpose Inc. and Purpose Investments. Sam formed Purpose following the sale of Claymore Investments to BlackRock, the behemoth based in the US, back in March of 2012. He's also the co-founder of Wealthsimple Technologies. And prior to the Claymore investments build out, Sam was also a respected investment banker with RBC Capital Markets based in Toronto.
I wouldn't say respected. That's a little bit of a
trying to stretch it a little bit there. He has a strong commitment to the community in Ontario and is currently a member of the AGO Foundation Board, Next Canada Board, and is the co-chair of the University of Toronto's Defy Gravity campaign, and is also a member of their Industrial Engineering Advisory Committee. So once again, Sam, thank you for taking the time for being with us here today.
No, it's a real pleasure, Thane, and thanks for including me in this great conversation.
Excellent. So let's get started. As I mentioned earlier, there'll be 3 or 4 segments. We'll run through 10 or 12 questions. I purposefully, pun intended there, I purposefully use most of the same questions on the podcast for the people that I interview, because I'm really trying to, create some consistency for the listener, but also to really give them some anticipation as to what the insights might be from each guest. So I'm really looking forward to today. So let's start off with, Sam, what would you say are the 1 or 2 things that you're most proud of personally and on behalf of your family so far that you've accomplished?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Only because I think that first, there's still so much left to do. We're still young, and I still feel really energized about all the things that are ahead of us. I'd start with the fact that, look, I'm an immigrant to this country, and I had the great fortune of a decision that my parents made to bring me to this country, to Canada. And that one decision that they made put me on a course of high probability than I would have been elsewhere. And, just gave me an opportunity in life to sort of pursue the things that I was able to do. And that's been really amazing. And I'm very proud of that backdrop. I sort of, it actually, as an individual, I often, admire what my parents did. I think we don't at least understand the risks that individuals take every day, immigrating and picking up their families, going to a brand new land and effectively building a brand new life. And so that's a very powerful thing. And I think that singular decision changed the course of my life, and I think for my family as well. I think, look, I'm very proud of what I've been able to build over the last number of years from a professional perspective. But more importantly, I'm proud of the decisions I've made to pursue, call it the goals that I have as an individual that have led me this way. And so yeah, I've built some cool businesses. I'm proud of them. The decisions along the way that allowed me to focus on getting to those outcomes. And so, the decision to what I wanted to pursue is in engineering and at U of T originally, the ability to push myself pretty hard in that, the decision to pursue and go after an investment banking job, the decision to leave, what most people would say would be a really amazing career opportunity and leave to take the risk of starting your own business. And that was Claymore, without any experience. And then the decision to not, after the sale of the company, to not just take the easy route, but to rather go and do it again. And I've continued to do that. And I really, I love that because it's a lot of confidence that, as I think forward, I don't know if I'm going to make good decisions all the time, but I know that my decision thesis or my structure of my decisioning has led me in the right way in the past, and hopefully will lead me in the right way in the future, both professionally and also with my family. And then I'd say the most important thing personally that I've ever, I'm most proud of is my family. My wife and I have been together since we were teenagers in high school. We've got 4 beautiful young children. You think about difficult work, being a parent and raising children and learning how to be a good parent is probably the hardest work. And I'm very proud of the work that we've been doing, but more importantly, I'm excited about continuing to learn on that journey.
Oh, fantastic. So Purpose Investments, which is personified by you as the founder, has been known for being a very innovative firm here in Canada, and I would say on North American, even global basis. So where does that innovation gene come from?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been trying to hack myself to understand, how did I get this creative thought? I would say, I've always come from a couple of principles. One is I used to love art. I was able to kind of integrate and think, very creatively as a young individual. Actually, my dream for most of my early life was to become an architect because I love design and the intersection of design and development and all that stuff. I didn't pursue it because I thought, and I was told by many architects not to do it because there was no money in it, and there's a deeper story there. And so therefore, I actually pivoted and went down a different path. But that has always been something that's been a part of me. I love the creative principles. At the same time, I also would say that I think my parents did a phenomenal job. They were very strict family and individuals, but one thing they did a lot is that they showed me a lot of love, and they gave me a lot of room, within those boundaries. And that room gave me the ability to sort of think and intersect and drive, but I had to, pursue things. And so those two things together kind of allowed me to really put this kind of ability to be creative, but also be structured and disciplined around that creative thought. And then the last thing I'd say is, I'd say one thing that most people don't know about me is I'm a big daydreamer. And I don't mean that in a, I'm off in the weeds somewhere. I daydream a lot. I run kind of sometimes different scenarios of life and structure and ideas in my head forward. And that actually, I figured, is probably one of the most important thinking that I do, because it allows me to start to really dream a little bit about ideas. And when you dream, you start to actually take things that sometimes look, unachievable or somewhat irrational, and actually turning them into reality. And I think that's one thing that I've done very well. And I think that's been a core foundation to what's made me who I am, and the way that I have been able to be as innovative I have over my career.
Excellent. So I'm going to pivot to another question here. A lot of people in the financial services arena would know you, know your company very well. And I think today your company is managing 12 billion plus.
Yeah, as a whole, actually just under 20 billion now. So we continue to grow rapidly.
Wow, it's fantastic. And not a surprise. What do you think? I want to have a little fun question here. What do you think the public knows you best by?
This is an easy one. I think most people know me as the guy on the Air Canada ads. And, it's funny. This was something that we decided to do. I decided to do many years ago. And I would say it's been very positive in terms of our brand building, but it's also led to always the funny sort of when I get up on a plane at the end of the plane ride. But I'd say that's a pretty common introduction that I get. Is the guy from the Air Canada ads. But I'm okay with that, because I think we time trying to build that brand and using that medium to build a sort of a trust factor and awareness factor to what we're doing.
Well, you got a captive audience, people sitting down in an airplane seat, right? Looking at you. So this is good. You've had at least one liquidity event that I'm aware of, right? You sold Claymore after building it up very successfully. You were kind of a pioneer in the ETF industry in Canada and North America for that matter. And BlackRock came knocking. So you had a liquidity event, you sold the business. So just walk me through, why did you sell the business? And then kind of what re-energized you to kind of restart purpose?
Yeah. So I actually don't look at it as a positive to have a liquidity event. And specifically at that moment was actually quite a negative. So I had started Claymore when I was 28 years old. Frankly, was naive and built this business, but I had some partners in that business, and, we went through some different ups and downs as partners. And ultimately, it came down to, as I'd been building a really cool business and a really great business. We grew the business from $0 to $8 billion. We're the fastest growing company in Canada in the asset management industry and history, and really cool. However, our partners, which were American, they wanted to take the money off the table. And we tried to figure out ways that I could take them out, but we just couldn't. And ultimately, price got to such an unbelievable level that it made sense to sell. The reality, though, is I was very upset. I was like, personally and emotionally, I was like selling my baby. And, I had a really deep chip on my shoulder. And anyone who was around me and knew me, my wife specifically, would have, known, like, I was wound up, struggling around that period. Just, how could this happen? How could I, let go of this? I just had such an energy and excitement about the next 5 to 10 years in building Claymore. And so to me, the logical decision was I wanted to build my business. And in fact, within 30 days of selling the closing of the transaction to BlackRock, I had the business plan for purpose and, all the things we've been doing set on a whiteboard. But one of the things that was really important to me in the moment is I actually did realize that I wasn't in the, call it, mind start right away. So even though I had the business plan, I kind of said, I need to get out of here. I need to get this chip off my shoulder. And more importantly, I need to make sure that if I'm going to build a new business, that I'm going to do it because I truly want to do it, not because I feel I have to do it because of the way that Claymore ended for me. And so my wife and I, and at the time we had 2 kids, we went away. We went away for 3 months. We left, and actually it was such an amazing period. But one of the things I did was I took my BlackBerry and I turned it off, meaning that no one could call me, no one could email me. I had no signal. And for 3 months, I had 2 phone calls back to Canada, other than to my and things like that. And that was pretty liberating. it's funny, when I was away, I didn't think much about this. I didn't think, I was thinking about ideas for names and so on and so forth. But when I landed back in Canada, we then spent the last month out in Nova Scotia, which is for many people who know me, is a very dear place for me. We have a family home there that I love, and when I'm there, I kind of somewhat go to who I really am as an individual. I shed a lot of the obligations that you have in kind of the business side of things, and you really become a family person. But anyways, I was there, and I remember my wife videotaped me on the beach, and I was pacing back and forth. And when I got into Canada, I just had this, like my heart rate started to go up a couple beats, and just felt this energy about, I'm here now, I'm back. I want to get going. And I realized that I was just really excited about building this new company and building this business and really continuing on. And, effectively, I registered the company while I was there, and the rest is history. I started the company several months later in January of 2013, and I haven't looked back. And it's been a pretty amazing experience. But that time off gave me the ability to make the decision that I was doing it for the right reasons, and not just because I had some emotional attachment.
Well said. Thank you for sharing that. So one last question for this segment, and then we'll take a brief break. Has this, when you went through your first liquidity event and even up till today, have you found that, an increased level of wealth, has it shifted your thinking personally? Do you think about money differently? Do you think about striving for different reasons? Your philanthropic ideas come to mind? Just some thought.
100%. I mean, look, first and foremost, I'll answer it in a few ways. One is, I made the comment earlier that I didn't pursue the architectural path because of a lack of earning money. And I thought when I was a young kid that money was really the number one goal I had, was to earn a lot of money. And it's because I didn't come from money. We were, as I say, we grew up in a really wonderful family structure, but I didn't have money. And so I always dreamed about it. But that actually hit me hard when I was 25. And I had a very specific moment in my life where I realized that money was not the thing that was making me happy. I was a young person making good money as an investment banker. And I kind of had a little bit of a early life crisis to say, like, this isn't the goal to drive you. And that was the moment that I realized that, like, what is it that actually truly energizes me? Because I was still, I was still energized as an individual. And it was around progress. It was about ideas. It's about seeing the things that I had developed and the things that are in my mind moving forward. And you can trace that back to why I wanted to be an architect. Call it, that was more of a actual literal idea of seeing the things you develop in real execution. But it was the same in business and others, and that's what really always drove me. So money has not been a driving force for me, and because money has never been something that's important to me in that way, I always sort of said, once I have enough, that word is an important one, then I don't really need to work for money anymore. I need to work for something else. And frankly, when we sold Claymore, I now had more than I'd ever had enough, needed for enough, the word enough. The problem was, then you sort of look at it and say, I mean, there's 2 points. One is, what does the word enough mean anymore? Because that does and that for many people changes. And I think you have to be very, very disciplined. And two is, I had to sit back and say, okay, why do I do what I do? And I realized that I actually don't work for money today. The only reason I earn, any value of money is because I want to give more away. And this is a really powerful thing. And so over the last decade, as I've been building purpose and the other businesses that I've been really involved in and driving, what I really focus on now is, okay, what does this mean? What does this now give me the capability to do more of, or have a greater impact on in society than I would have had before? And that's what really pursues me. Every dollar that I make today is a dollar that I plan on giving back meaningfully and multiplying back into society. And so that's really what drives me more than anything else.
Thanks, Sam. So let's take a quick break. I'm with Sam Seif, founder of Purpose Investments and Purpose Inc. So please join us coming back here in a few minutes. One moment. Thank you.
Want to know how Canada's top industry leaders feel about creating significant wealth and the world around them? Find out with me, Thane Stenner, founder of Stenner Wealth Partners at Canaccord Genuity, and host of the new Smart Wealth podcast, available on iHeart or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Subscribe now.
Hello, I'm Thane Stenner. I'm back with Seif of Purpose Investments on June 15th. Hope everybody's enjoying the interview so far. I certainly am. Wanted to continue with some insightful questions of Som and really get more into the meat of the discussion here. So, Som, as an entrepreneur, you have accomplished a lot already. And I know as a philanthropist, you've also done the same. What would you say so far has been the toughest challenges in your life, either personally or professionally? And, you can kind of go wherever you want on this question.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's journey is, as you know, not a straight and up and to the right journey. And one of the things I love, by the way, doing is reading about other people's journeys. It's one of my favorite types of stories is to read autobiographies because they teach you a lot about individuals, the resilience to challenges that they face, the ups and downs of those challenges, the failures, the decisions they had to make. And every successful person, if you look at them, and anybody, frankly, has a real story behind them. And it's actually something that I would say that I've tried to become much more attuned to, is that, like, in life, whether it's my team, my that I work with every day, that they have lots of stuff going on in their lives and lots of history that they don't always bring to work, or they don't bring to the environment that, the conversation that you're dealing with them on. And you have to respect that. And I really have learned to try to respect that. I think for me, look, I think, as I said, I'll start with the fact that my name is Seif. Like, it's not a very conventional name. I'm not, a white person, coming from a big background. I had to build my own kind of presence, but I would say actually I turned that into a positive. And why? Because, when just a very simple thing, when I think about all the luck that has gone in my career, I think that actually standing out and looking different actually is an advantage. And I've used it as one. And so, when I think about, how I got my resume through to get an interview, to then get an accepted or a job at RBC, after I was there and I saw the thousands of resumes that people had to go through to get to the sort of one or two that they would ultimately give an offer to, that process was very difficult. But I actually think that the fact that my name was different, that I have a different background, actually allowed me to stand out. And so I've always thought of that as an advantage, and then I use that in my life. And I think so, although others might look at it as a challenge, I look at it as, how do you turn a challenge into an advantage? I think that's one thing. The second thing I would just say is that my style as an individual is very unorthodox. And what do I mean by that is that, like, when I see something that I don't believe makes sense, I want to change it. And I'm willing to stick my neck on the line out there and look different than everyone else for a long time, while other people might be critical, might not agree, might not feel that is the right thing to do. But if I fundamentally believe it's the right thing to do, I will stand out and fight for that future state for a long time. And that is something that I've had to, overcome through everything from starting my first business, Claymore, which, remember, at the time, like ETFs, today everyone thinks about ETFs and is part of everyone's psyche. But back then, it was such a small idea. No one really thought much about it. Specifically what I was doing, which was trying to tell people that, you can actually do better by being more thoughtful about the way you construct things. And so whether that's, that stage, or whether it's crypto today, whether it's what we've done on the retirement and longevity side, whether it's, any innovation that we've ever done, I've had so many naysayers, people that sort of try to tell me that, that's not the right way to think, or, hey, why are you doing that? That's way out there. And I've always said, because we need to do. And so I'm willing to sort of fight that or overcome that inertia that settles into industry. And then from a personal perspective, I will say I had a health issue about 6 years ago that really hit me hard. I almost died, and I'm lucky, to my wife and to others around me that helped me. But that moment in my life was really important. For about 3-4 months, I was out of the business. I was, really focused on getting better as an individual. I've had a challenge individually from that, and that I lost all the cartilage in my ankle, and therefore I don't walk the same. I couldn't do the same activities. I played water polo for 25 years and had to stop and couldn't, and all these things. And I had to adapt my life to this new reality. And frankly, although I look at it and the thing that I always say is, that's not, it was a moment in my life, but I lived, and that's the most important thing. And the second thing is that, like, frankly, every day I see other people going through, challenges that are 10x bigger and more important than that. And so, that's the kind of stuff that really sort of, I look at it and say, my problems are small. And so, look, everyone has their challenges in life. And I think that this also makes me realize the importance that every day matters. Every day is a day to do something really profound and amazing. And most importantly is respect everybody else's life, because they're probably going through challenges that are 10 times worse than yours. And no matter how bad I think my life is at any moment in time, I could probably find, 90% of people that would take my problems over theirs.
Well said. So let's pivot to, we both are in the wealth management, financial services business, and so for a long time. So, today's June 15th, 2022, just to watermark that. What's your thoughts on the markets today from where you sit?
Yeah, look, I've been in the markets. I've been, I started my career in '99, went through the craziness of the early the tech bubble up, and then of course the crash for the next number of years. Built my first business, Claymore, and the early years were right into the thickness of the 08 and 09. And then, of course, through the last number of years, and then the pandemic, difficulties of 2020. And frankly, one of the things that the tenets that's been core to me is that, I am very attuned to what's happening. I try to understand what's going on, try to create a mental model from that about how to act and where to be prudent and where to be aggressive and all the rest. But at the end of the day, as a participant in this market, you have to recognize that the markets are, out of your control. And what you can control is the only thing you can do. And so, this market environment, yes, it's scary, but it's sort of what we have to be understanding is real. Like that, markets go up and down. They don't just go up and to the right, as I said. And if you fundamentally have core assets that you believe in, that are good, that you don't use leverage, and you don't put yourself in a position where somebody else can control your outcome, that you are positioned and diversified properly, that, these are just moments in your journey as an investor. And so that's the kind of stuff that really kind of grounds me, my foundational thinking. I would say, though, as I don't now pivot to the specifics of this environment, I do think that, and I've been saying this for a while, that I do think that, our industry and many of our participants and many investors have just never witnessed inflation in a real way. And it's actually one of the challenges that I think that made me build Purpose, was that I felt that the majority of our industry itself properly for the real risks that we faced over a long, enduring, multi-cycle investment process. And specifically that, people had settled into this idea that, fixed income is protecting you when, markets are bad, and equities make you good returns in the long run, and everyone's happy with that. And I said, what happens when actually interest rates go up and they result in the fact that bonds and equities actually decline together? And that's what we're seeing today. And I just think that for many, people, we just don't understand the nastiness of what inflation can be. And that's really, I think, what's causing the uncertainty today, is that, there's really no yet clear view on what the future state of inflation will be. Not to say that it's going to be 12, 15%. I don't believe we're going to go back to, that kind of inflationary environment, but there is a meaningful difference between 3% and 5% long-term inflation. And we don't know yet where inflation will settle in. And until that gets done, it's going to be extremely hard for the markets to have built a forecast model and what they should be pricing assets based on. And so we're going to see a lot of volatility, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of, call it looking for guidance, whether it's from the Bank of Canada, Federal Reserve, the government, whether it's from your local advisor or friends. Everyone's looking for, call it some kind of guidance. And, that guidance is also uncertain. And so, I think that's resulting in the markets substantial, uncertainty and risks right now. And so I think volatility is high. I do think that these are the moments, though, that we should be taking advantage of. And so what do I mean by that? If I think about wealth creation, yes, you can always win, long run. You destroy wealth by being and panicking in these types of moments, by selling and when you shouldn't be, and losing sight of that long-term plan. But you also can use these opportunities as really strong wealth creators too, which is that actually when other people are panicking, that you can actually do the opposite. And, I think we always applaud people like Warren Buffett and others, who have had, long tenured experiences of building strong wealth and of course, and doing disciplined investing. But it's moments like this that people like Warren Buffett actually shine. It's not when everyone else is winning that Warren Buffett shines. It's actually these moments. And so it's actually the time for us to step back and say, be very disciplined and say, this is actually a moment to take advantage of over the next number of months to be a winner out of this over the next 3 to 5 years, as opposed to panicking and going the opposite way.
Excellent. So, we deal with investors that are, have 10 million plus and much higher. Kind of our specialty. And one of the things I guess I would ask of you is, let's just pretend if you had $10 million to invest today, what would Seif do with it? Sectors wise, you don't have to, get too specific, but how would you be applying your thinking to deploying that today?
So I think first and foremost, I would always start with my foundational principles, which are, a well-diversified, long-term, enduring portfolio that was positioned to, be resilient both in good and bad times, and was positioned on good fundamental assets. That's going to make up 80% of whatever I do, and that'll always be the foundational thing. But I will always try to leave a little bit of space for that creative long-term thinking. And so what are the areas that I think that are really fascinating? I still believe that there are opportunities for investors over the next, decade in, big trends and opportunities. So I still think that technologically, there's going to be some really meaningful change in things like blockchains and crypto. I think there's going to be really fascinating and amazing opportunities with, areas around alternative and not energies, but broadly, renewables and alternative opportunities like that. I think there's going to be really fascinating opportunities when you start thinking about agriculture. The stress that we're seeing today is continuing to be a challenge. So I would be trying to deploy opportunistically areas that I think over the next decade, you want to be positioned into. But it comes off the core of my business, and the core of my portfolio always will be in some foundational long-term thing that I never actually have to think about, that I never have to worry about, that won't keep me up at nighttime. And the 20% would be in things that I think I fundamentally believe in, but I wouldn't, again, sweat about. I'd have to, if it went to zero, it'd be okay. And frankly, if it also it paid off, it'd be also okay, but it's not going to change my life.
Gotcha. And as an entrepreneur yourself, and as a business owner yourself, having, created significant wealth, through Claymore and now through Purpose, I guess, maybe speak to having partners, strategic investment partners, which you do currently. So comments on that?
I think partners is one of the most important things you can do in life and in business. But choosing them right is critical. And I think this is something that most people don't appreciate. I mean, whether it's, thinking about someone you're going to, go and found a business together with, whether it's your life partner, whether it's your social partner, people that you go and do really cool things socially with. It's really critical early on in those partnerships to establish not what people's short-term goals are, but really what their long-term goals are and what their values are. And I've seen this. I mean, people come together, they're energized, they're excited about something, but people change, and their lives change, and so their goals change too. And this is oftentimes what, of course, creates challenges in personal relationships. It's what challenges with friendships. It's challenges with people's call it partners in business. Is that they haven't thought through, as those things change, which are realities, how will our partnership change? And so I always believe that it's really important early on to have those difficult conversations. And it actually makes you stronger. But I believe in partnership. I believe in, I mean, I'm one of these individuals that my word is my bond. When I say something, I can't back out of it. I just, even if it's a bad deal, it doesn't matter. I've just always believed that, that's something critical. My reputation, my word is so critical. And it goes to all parts of my life. And so, but when you have the right partners who think the same way and act the same way and are honest and true, then you can do some amazing things together. I have a group of people that I'm really close with, that it's a cycling club that I'm a part of. They're called the Les Domestiques. And it's a really amazing group of people that love to get together, and we love to cycle, of course, but we also love to do really good things in community. And I'll tell you, the power of partnership in, kind of doing really exciting things and cool things together, and the power of the scale of that partnership is, I see it every day, and I love that. And so this is, again, you've got alignment of a group of people that come together. They have a love for certain things, but they also have a love for causes in the community. And when we do things, we do them together, and we multiply each other's impact, and the outcomes are profound. And I think that the wave that group is having, is compounding every single year, and we're seeing that now more and more. And I it's something I'm very proud of, and it just goes to show that I think, everyone can do it on whatever scale and size that they want to do this in, but when you have the right people around you, you can make a really meaningful, big, long-term impact.
So I'm not going to assume I know the answer to this, but I have a funny feeling I do. Do you believe in mentorship, and if you've had mentors, who have they been?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I would say I don't have any one person that I kind of sat on their lap and they told me the wise ways of the world, and kind of coattail off that. But I really do believe in mentorship, and there's two ways that I've done it. One is, again, by observing. So I love watching other people all through my career, whether it was walking into a meeting with somebody and sort of observing the habits that they did, and then sort of saying that was the kind of thing that actually had an impression on me, and therefore that's the kind of thing that I should embody, all the way to just watching really amazing people around me, and seeing the kinds of activities, the types of values they live, and the types of things they do, and then admiring those, and trying to embody them. But at the same time, second is, I've also tried to surround myself with people that I can, have real honest and open conversations about. So, this ability to kind of open person, tell people what's on my mind, what the challenge I'm facing, and then be able to have people to truly give me deep thought and insights to help me kind of develop my thought process and my own personal views of how to think forward. And so, that's the sort of mentorship that I've tried to build around me. And I've, luckily, knock on wood, have built a really strong network of really amazing friends and people that I can trust to have those types of conversations with. I'd recommend for, anybody who's thinking about mentorship is that, I think it's a really important thing to have great friends or people that you can build those types of conversations with. And second is that, have somebody who cares about your career, your life, and pushes. One of my great friends has always said this really amazing thing that's stuck with me, which is that you as an individual are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And what does that mean? It means that the people you spend the most time with are going to set the tone for your pursuit, your life. And if you spend time with people who don't have a lot of energy, don't like to pursue things, then that ultimately is at the are. And frankly, if you're, the most overachieving or most sort of energized individual in your group, then you're actually being held back by others. Whereas if you spend the time with others who are always pushing you, always you can look up to, you can, help you think about, what else can we be doing? What else can you be doing? You strive for more, you're going to push yourself more. And I think that's a very powerful way to think. And so, it starts with the types of people you put around you, and then, what you ask of them, and the types of openness you have as an individual to, to get and collect information to help you guide yourself through those relationships.
Excellent. So maybe share something about yourself that probably nobody except for maybe your wife knows about you.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, is most people would not know this, but I am actually not a very social person. So I really am. I like to be alone. I like to be with my family. I like to be in my own head. As I said earlier, I do a lot of daydreaming, and so I get caught in my own head a lot, and I enjoy that. And whereas most people would think that because I'm on the, running around, I do a lot of speaking, I do a lot of meetings, I do spend a lot of time with a lot of people that I like that as a social element. I actually don't, and so that's really important. My wife and I have been together since we were kids, and we've grown up together, and she knows all those deep elements about who I am and such. I think, aside of that, look, I played water polo for 25 years and, or actually more than that. And it's something that was deeply embedded in my life. It's been a really important thing. And so most people wouldn't know that about me, but, I was a sport that I really, it made a big impact in my life, and became something that made me develop a large part of my character set. The relationships I have, the types of leader I am, the type of teammate I am, all those things that really meant the type of competitive kind of thinking I have. And so that's been a really important thing for me as well.
Excellent. So let's just fast forward 10, 20 years. What are you hoping your kids think about you as their dad?
I think a lot about this question. And actually it's sometimes, I'm always nervous because I always want my my kids to see me as this hard charging, ambitious, I work hard, I do all these things, and I always felt that would bleed into them. And it's because I always looked at my parents and I saw them hustling all the time to put food on the table, to work hard. My dad was always running around. My mom worked, days and nights. And, I saw that as like, that's what you do. And so I want my kids, and I always felt that was going to be important. What I've realized as I've matured even more is though that the most important thing that I can be is a good person around my kids. And it's the way I treat other people, the way I talk, the types of decisions I make around them, the way I'm present. Those things are actually more valuable, I think, to my kids than me being seen as like someone who's just hard charging and successful, but ultimately not around. And so I've really tried to pivot a large part of that thinking, with the thanks of my wife, who's helped me kind of realize that, because she's seen both sides of me, and she's seen the sort of the dilemmas I've gone through. Frankly, when I sold Claymore, one of the factors in me going back and really building the business was because I was worried that, like, if I just sat around and was more present around the house and wasn't working as hard, that my kids would, they would see that, and because they were young at the time, that's what all they'd know. And she's like, so you're being so silly. So she's been very helpful in helping me think through that. But I just, I really want them to see me as a person of strong values, someone that is a good person, that treats other people with respect, no matter where they're from, what they do, and how they act. I just always believe that's important, and that they can be amazing people themselves, and they also can pursue their life to be whatever they want it to be, and live the life that they want to live.
Well said. Well, that is actually my final question of you. I kind of instead of breaking up into different segments, we were on a good flow there. So I figured we'd do it this way. But thank you, Sam, for taking the time today to share your insights and be open and transparent and authentic. And So with that in mind, thank you once again for attending and for everybody that's listening today.
Thanks, Thane. And look, I really think it's great that you're doing this. And more importantly, I appreciate you taking the time and the depth of the question. So appreciate it.
Most welcome. Well, that was Seif, the founder of Purpose Inc., Purpose Investments, based in Toronto. Absolute pleasure kind of interviewing him today. And please do download this interview June 25th or so when it becomes available. And I think this is going to be a really popular interview. So thanks everybody for listening in. Thane Stenner here, BNN Bloomberg Smart Wealth Podcast. Enjoy. Talk soon.
The comments expressed in this podcast are the results of work done by Stenner Wealth Partners. They may differ from the opinion of Canaccord Genuity Corp. And should not be considered as representative of Canaccord's beliefs, opinions, or recommendations. All views expressed in this podcast are provided for informational purposes only and do not constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities. The statements expressed herein are not intended to provide tax, legal, or financial advice, and under no circumstances should be construed as a solicitation to act as a securities broker or dealer in any jurisdiction. All views are intended for general circulation only and do not have any regard to the specific investment objectives, financial situation, or general needs of any particular person, organization, or institution. Canaccord is a member of the CIPF.